Pure drinking water is probably one of the most important things you can have for yourself as well as your animals. And the quality of water that goes into your animals is really the quality of the meat that they will produce. So I'm going to show you my rainwater harvesting system that I use for my sheep and also for my house. The first thing you need is a metal roof, because an asphalt roof just won't work for water collection. It's got tannins in the asphalt and in the asphalt roof shingles. And so you have to have a metal roof. The second thing you need is a guard or a leaf guard over your gutters to keep all the leaves and sticks out of the gutter so it doesn't go into your rainwater harvesting system. And so all of your gutters have to be covered. Keeping the leaves and the dirt that falls on the roof out of your water system is going to be one of the hardest things you'll have to do. And I'll show you how I filter the water after it's been come off the roof. The next step is to disconnect your downspouts from your gutters and reroute them into PVC pipe. I'm using the thin-walled drainage pipe here, and I'm hanging it down from the gutters or from the roof with wires. I used some thin electrical fencing wire that wasn't very well galvanized, and after a while it kind of rust, but it does work and it holds up the collection system, this part of the collection system. The PVC pipe will route the water down to a central location, and then on this side of the house it has to shoot the water underneath the deck and over to the other side of the house. So I have to run pipes from both sides of the house to a central location to be able to filter the water and store it. So the pipe goes all the way under the deck. It's got a slight drop to it as it travels, and it brings the water to the other side of the house from this side of the house. On the other side of the house, the water is just collected right out of the gutters, and it drops straight down to the stock tank filtering system, where both halves of the house come together and are filtered. I had to use two 90-degree elbows to help me point the pipe in the right direction to go into the stock tank. The collection pipes from both sides of the house come together and feed into this 250-gallon stock tank, which is where the filter is. And we're going to talk about that for a second. So this stock tank is tilted towards us so that when it overflows, it will spill out towards us. And I put a concrete spillway in front of it so it wouldn't eat away at all the dirt and wash the dirt away and make it fall over. So you have to have some sort of concrete overflow spillway when this thing fills up, because sometimes you'll have just a tremendous amount of water will come through it. At the bottom of the stock tank, I have an 1.5 inch pipe that comes out, and this is filtered. There's a filter laying on top of this, and that gets all the trash out of it. But at the top of the stock tank, I drilled another hole and put like a 2-inch piece of PVC pipe, and this catches the water when it fills up and it's overflowing. And the 2-inch piece of PVC pipe has a downspout inside the stock tank that acts like a siphon and keeps pulling water out of there. So when you have these big rainfall events and it fills up with rain and starts overflowing, there's really not a lot of dirt in there, and so you can just pull it straight out without filtering. So here's what it looks like inside the stock tank. With the filter removed, you can see I've got a perforated PVC pipe in a big rectangle, and then it goes out at the bottom of the screen. And I've got hundreds of holes in there, and that gets out a lot of the dirt. But I also have a geotextile filter I put over it to get rid of all the rest of the dirt. And this filter will wrap itself around this pipe unless I have these rocks around that. So that makes the filter have to stay above the collection pipe, the rectangular collection pipe with the perforated holes in it at the bottom. Now you can see also that this is a collection pipe, the larger 2-inch pipe at the top of the stock tank, and it fills up whenever there's a big rainfall event, and the tank can't hold all the water that's being dumped into it. And what it does, when the water gets that high where it crests, it sets up a siphon. So this goes down about 1.5 feet down into the tank itself, and it sets up a siphon effect so that when it is full of water, it'll just keep draining until it drains all the water out with that down-pointed spout. And so that's all clean water. When we have these rainfall events with a lot of water, it's all pure and it doesn't need to be filtered at that point because all the dirt's gone. And here's where the 2-inch pipe, overflow pipe, exits out the side of the stock tank at the very top. Here's where we're replacing the filter that goes over the collection system in the stock tank. And it's a geotextile fabric. I bought a big roll of this for another project a long time ago, and so what I did is I just cut them into big rectangles and I use it to place inside the stock tank, and that keeps all the dirt out of the system. Now I guess you could do this with even just like a bed sheet if you wanted to, but this geotextile is meant for that, and plus it's really tough, and I can reuse them too. So what will happen is when you put in this fabric in there, after about like a year, 6 months or a year, it'll start getting so much dirt in there that that the water can't go through anymore. It'll get blinded by all the trash and dirt. You can pull the leaves out, but there's some like just gritty dirt that will come up in off the roof, and it'll get impregnated into this this fabric. And so we'll have to take it out and put a new one in there. But what we can do with geotextile, because it is such a strong fabric, we can take it and we can place it somewhere upside down, like over one of the tanks. And after about a year or so, the rainwater, that when it gets rained on, it'll actually wash itself back out and can be reused. So I've got several of these sitting out there getting cleaned. I tried to get my wife to put them into the clothes washer. She said no way, because they were just really, really nasty. But I've got about 10 or 15 of these filters that I made, and that really works. Like I said, you could use a bed sheet or some other type of fabric, but probably only one time, because it would rot in there. This won't rot. It's a geotextile. It cost me, I think, about $300 for a roll of it. And we never used it, so I thought, well, what can I use it for? So I'm using it for the stock tank filter, and it works great. Now here I'm cutting a hole in the fabric because I want to slip it. I want to slip it over that that overflow, that 2-inch overflow at the very top of the stock tank, because I want that on the outside of the filter. Because when it starts doing its suction thing, it's all the water's clean at that point, and I want that on the outside of the filter. So I cut a hole and did that. And then I placed 2 large rocks on either side of this 2-inch pipe that works when it overflows. And that keeps the filter from rising up and clogging the pipe. It holds the filter down. It allows enough space for this to actually do its suction. And there's a tremendous amount of suction when you get that much downhill travel. It pulls this water out of this tank really, really quickly. So this is what the filter looks like before I cleaned it. You can see all the trash and leaves that come off the top, dead bugs, just everything is in here. And it gets so much dirt in there that the water can't go through the membrane. So what the water will do is it'll go higher and higher on the membrane. The fact that it's a very deep stock tank, it'll find a place where it's not covered up with dirt and still work. So it works, but not as well. And you might lose some more water, but it'll work for like an entire year before you have to replace it. Here's how the filter is held on to the stock tank with a wire underneath the rim of the stock tank and tied on. And then here's the 2 exits, the bottom one that's filtered and the top one for the overflow that's not filtered. Both of these pipes are then routed down to the storage tanks. Now here it is in March. There's a little bit less foliage, and you can see it. They go into the top of these IBC totes, and I've got 16 IBC totes. You can see there's a manifold that connects them all together down at the bottom, and this is where the water is stored. The IBC totes are covered in black plastic. You take them out of the cage and cover the bladder with black plastic, tape it up, put it back in the cage. And then there's a manifold that connects them all together. That has to be well insulated because that's where the water goes back into the house. And so there's a pump inside the house that does suction and pulls it back into the house. And that's how we run into the house. Pipe that runs back into the house, I have heat tape on it, and that lets it run throughout the winter. If it gets below zero, then I'll have to drain this pipe and we go back onto the well until the 0-degree weather is over. But the IBC totes themselves really don't freeze all the way through. They freeze at the top and the sides, but you can still draw water out of them even when it's down to almost 0 degrees. But below zero, that's when I have to shut the entire system down and just wait until the weather warms above zero, which is not very common in Tennessee, but it does happen. I also have to drain the pipe too, and everything else, just really shut it down. Now this lets us take a rainwater shower in the house. Also, our clothes are washed in rainwater, and everything we do is with distilled water. And we have a Berkey filter inside the house that we run the drinking water through. Just make sure it's totally pure, but if you've never had a rainwater shower, you don't know what you're missing. Now to transfer the water to the sheep, we siphon the water out with a hose pipe and run it down the hill to this IBC tote. The IBC tote is covered with some of that geotextile fabric. The sunlight out, so algae won't grow in it, that we put on it. And it's up on concrete blocks too. We keep it high so the water can easily pour out. It's not sitting on the ground. And then we have this pipe that we use to extract the water from this IBC tote, the single IBC tote for the sheep. It has a quick connection to it that snaps on. And your IBC totes will come with two different types of connections. One will be a national pipe thread that we use up on the hill for our house. And that's usually 275 gallons, but these 315-gallon ones are a little bit bigger. They don't have national pipe thread. They have this quick connection for transferring liquids. And there's a company named Banjo that I think out of China that makes these connections for it. They're used on IBC totes, and they have these connectors that wrap around it. And so then you could take it and you could put it onto the IBC tote and extract the water very quickly. There's also a quick connection for like a hose pipe that you can put on it, but it takes much longer to fill up the tanks with that. And so the bigger pipe, the black pipe that we took off of our, like a well pipe, that works much better for this. When we're through, we try and cover up the IBC tote, make sure that no sunlight's getting to it. And that lets us keep it nice and clean in there for the water for the sheep, because we don't want any algae in our sheep water. And that's it. So thanks for watching the video.